Hello everyone, we have to discuss about the GS paper 3 men's answer writing, GS 3 and interview. Ethical and human interfere is the determinant and the consequences of the ethics in human actions. Dimension of the ethicals and ethics in the private and the public's relationships and the identifying and the ranking personal's value. Identified and the ranking personal value is the crucial aspect of the making decisions and that the alliance and with one the aspirations and belief. Elaborate. 150 words. Moderate. Why the question? The question is the part of the static syllabus of the GS paper 3 4 and key demands of the question to write about the taking decisions and overcoming conflict by having the hierarchy of the values. Directive words elaborated. Give other direct detailed account as to the how and why it is the occurs and or what is the contact and who you must be the defining and they and key terms and wherevers and the appropriated and the substituted and with the relevant associated fact. Structure of the answer. Introductions and begin by the giving and context and regarding the conflict in decisions making bodies, and first write about the ways conflict impact the decision making and it's the overcome and delay improve decision making delay derelictions and of the duties, and next write about how heavy havings other set of the hierarchy of the rituals and can help in the resolving conflict. Conclude by the summarizing. Introduction. There are many potentials and values virtuous and they often the affairs to conflict, courage against the prudence and love against the fidelity and honesty against the kindness and loyalty against the common decency. And such conflict raise and questions about the coherence of the list and of the trait called virtuous, and even when those trait and coincides rather than conflict, as when both the love and the prudence recommend and marries the coherence is the problem, because the question of the motives is most the always and significant both the hierarchy of the value is and the illusions. Isia Berlin come up and with the concept of the value and pluralism and hierarchy of the value is impossible. The conflict and ethical dilemmas and always the occurs become the virtuous are the impatibles with each other and sometime, and that does not means and one can rank and thus the virtuous and use this hierarchy to solve the problems. And for the example, liberty is not just the district and from the equality, justice or compassion, and what is in the some ways and in the unavoidables and conflict when with them you can't have everything, and freedoms for the always and has often means and both for the ships and right. In the addition, Berlin and the argues and there the irreducible and diversities and confrontation and between the moral ends is the avicutos and rather than the expansionals and within our the other lives and in the our socials and the interactions. And finally and we are the told and that the ideas that there the exist some absolutions and the universal moral hard sticks and that permits and used to the rank human values and ideals and the resolve moral disagreement and is and the illusions constitution some societies and may give the higher priorities to equality, and while the some in the west and may give the significance of the liberty and decision involving involving and the morals and the turpitude and the requires and careful the circumstantials and the evidence before taking any decisions. Value system of the pupils differs in different society and must be the taken into the cognizance, and there cannot be the universal hierarchy of the virtuous in fact, and some may the things in the utilitarians and terms and the some may the things of the individuals and justice. There is no the one size and fits all approach here. The environmental question, environmental integrity is the fundamental for the well-being of the both human and the natural environment. Discussion 250 bus difficulty level through. Why the question? The question is the part of the static syllabus of general study paper 4. Key demand of the question to write about the environmental integrity. It is the features and it's the important directive words and discuss. This is and the all the upcoming encompassing directive, and you must the debate on paper by going through the details of the issues and concern by the examinings and each one of them, and you must give reasons for both for and the against arguments and structure of the answer. Introduction begin by the defining and environmental integrity body in the first part and write about the various features of environmental integrity and it is the dimensions. Next, write about the importance of environmental integrity and the side example to the subsidized viewpoint. Viewpoint conclusion by the summarizing. Introduction. Environment integrity is the conditions in where the natural process of other plays occurs with the strength and the frequency expected in the regions and place with the environmental integrity experience and normal the patterns of infill and fires and the others process and contains and the ecosystem and that house the livings and non-living species and native to the areas and environment integrity is often and used in the legals and the philosophicals and writings to the refers to and the disturbed and state of the natures and conditions, and thus are the circumstances in which plant animals and the human life can continue freely and living being and can the receive all of the resources and essential to their the growth and reproduction such as the water, food and the shelter body. Conflict of the environmental integrity in the philosophies and was the developed in the early 12th century and by other philosophers and the ecologists and named the Aldo and Leopold and his the seminals and land ethics and philosophies and looked at the history holistic relationship between living being and with the homo and the species and as mayors the members of the land community and food webs and nutriented cycling natural disturbances and other the natural process and has to be the present allow animals and the plant species to the thrive and reproduce and the polluted the area naturally and any the humans activities and there the disturbances the development of other healthy natural systems negatively impact the notions of environmental integrity. This vary the intersections between human activity and environmental integrity is in the area of the continuous contentions. Human have the exploited the natural environment and particularly is the past few centuries and for their the survival and at the cost of the others plants and animals and lives. We have turned and forest into the farms and the wetland and into the housings and project and with the almost no regard and for the health of the environment. Conclusion. Stabilizing a balance and between the well-beings and of the humans and others livings and beings in the environment is the key objective of the environmental integrity, as some and writer and have the argued it is morality and important for the environments and to the remain intact for all living being and including the human. Only then can the environment have the possible instrumentals and value for all of its the inhabitant. Question. The simplicities of the clarity of the urbanization approach is the attractive because it is the provided a Clear guidelines for making the ethical decisions, ethically examined by 51. Difficulty level moderate. Why the question? The question is part of the static syllabus of the general study 4 and key demand of the question and to write about the philosophy of the utilitarianism and way. It's the resolve moral issues, structure of the answer, introduction. Begin by the defining the philosophy of the utilitarian in belief body. In your Avan the words explain that the utilitarianism and is the theory of the morality that the advocated action that the foster happiness or pleasure and the oppose action that the causes unhappiness or harms, and when the directed towards making social, economically or politically decision, and utilitarian philosophy and would aim for the betterment of society as a whole. Next, write the critic of the utilitarianism. Conclude by summarizing introduction. Utilitarians and would say that and the action is right if the result. Introduction. And the utilitarian would say that an action is right if the result in the happiness of the great numbers of people in other society or a group. Utilitarian is the theory of the moralities and which advocated action and that the foster happiness or pleasures and opposed the action and that cause the happiness or harms, and when directed the towards making and social, the economically or politically decision. A utilitarian and philosophies and would aim for the betterment of the society as a whole. Modi concept of the utilitarians and greatest good of the greatest number and was the famously given by the Jeremy and Bentham and the fathers of the utilitarians and Bentham the fundamental axioms and which the underlies and the utilitarians and was that all the socials, morals and governments legislations and should aim for the producing the greatest happiness for the greatest number of the people. Utilitarianism therefore the emphasis the consequences or the ultimate and purposes of all the surroundings of our surrounding the act, and it has thus the characteristics and universities because it is the applied to all the act all act of the human behavior, and even those and that the appears to be the done and to be the done and from the altruistic motives on objectives, meaning it's the operated and beyond the individuals and through the decides and the perspective rationality, and because it is not based in the metaphysics or the theology and the quantifiabilities in its the reliance on the utility attempt to the resolve morals issues on the single criteria government of the nation and can work and operate in such other way and that they can gain the legitimacies and the contest of the majority, and this is the enough and for the government to stay in the power and the afford utilitarian principle of greatest happiness of greatest numbers in such other scenarios and minority need and the minority. Concept of the utilitarian and greatest good of the greatest number and was the famously given by the Journey Bentham, the father of the utilitarianism, and Bentham the fundamental axiom and which underlines the utilitarianism and was that all the social, moral and government legislations should aim for the producing the greatest happiness for the great number of the pupils and utilitarians, and therefore the emphasis the consequences or the ultimate purposes of and the surround of and the act, and rather than the characters of the actions, the actors motivations or the particular circumstances surrounding the act, and it has thus the characteristics the universities, and because to the applied and to all the act of the human behavior, and even those and that the appears to be done and from the altruistic and motives and objectively, meaning it's the operated and beyond the individuals through the desire and perspective and rationally, because it is not the based in the metaphysics and or the theologies and the quantifiabilities, and in its the reliance on the utilities attempt to resolve moral issues on the single criterions. Government of the nation can work and the operated in such other way that they can gain legitimacy and the concept of the majorities, and this is the enough and for the government to stay in the power and the afford utilitarian principle of the greatest happiness of the greatest number in such other scenarios, and moralities and need and the minorities and right get the snoo shund for instance, and in the Nazi Germany and Jew were the ostracized and the ultimately and led to the genocide, and the most of the policies of other majorities governments are for the welfare of the certain community race, and this may the deny the minorities and rights or not work and towards thus the section are they do not from forms the board banks and hence utilitarians and may not the lead unto justice and the right of the minority sections, and at the same time on most of the democracies have the constitutions and that the protect minority limitations. A limitation of the utilitarianism and is that, and it's the tended and to the create the black and the white contract of other morality in the utilitarian ethics, and there are the no sides and of gray, either sometime is wrong or it's the right, and utilitarians also the cannot predict and with the certainly with the whether the consequences of the our action and will be the good or bad. The result of our action happens and in the futures, and utilitarians also has the troubles and accountings for the values and like the justice and the individual's right. For example, she at the hospital and has the four pupils and whose the lips dependent upon the receiving organs plants, a the heart, lungs and a kidney and a liver if a healthy person and wander into the hospitals and his the organs and could be the harvested and to save for lives at the expenses of his the one life, and this the would and the arguably and produce the greatest good for the greatest number, and but the few woods and consider it and the acceptables and courses of the action and let alone and the ethicals one. Conclusion: utilitarianism and is other forms of the consequentialism, and the because it rests on the ideas and that it is the consequences or the result of action, law, policies, etc., and that the determine and whether they are the good or bad. Right or wrong in general, the whatever and is the being evaluated, and we the ought to choose the one and that will the produce and the best overalls and result in the language of the utilitarians, and we should the choose the option and that the maximizing utility, that action or the policy and that produce the largest amount of good. As long as and the employees and the moonlightnings and does not the violated and any policies or ethics standard and does not the interference and with their the primarily job duties, and it can be the considered and the acceptable practices. Do you agree with this the views? 150 words. Difficulties level moderate. Why the question? The question is the part of the static syllabus of GSP General Studies paper 4. Key demand of the questions and to forms and the opinions and the ethicalities of the moonlighted and structure of the answer. Introduction. Begin by the defining the concept of the moonlighting body. First give the reason as to the why and there is need and of the moonlightings, and cites reason and as to the why it may be the considered ethically. Next, giving an as to the why and the moonlighting and may be the considered and the unethicals and the conclusion. Conclude by the giving other balance and opinion the issues. The practice of the working and for one the organization and while also taking up the extra responsibilities and jobs, typically without the employers and knowledge, and it is the refers and to as moonlighting it is called. And so the side employees is the typically performance at the night or on the weekends. The fair become well known and when the American began and looking for the second jobs in the auditions and to there's the regular 9 to the 5 jobs and to the supplement there the income. After Wipro and another Indian MNC, Infosys and has the warned and foe of the repercussions and of the moonlighting to their the employees body. Need for the moonlighting and it's the ethical basis. While moonlighting is often the considered and wrong, the ethically and moonlighted is the win and win the concept in which the individuals are able to the monetize and there the skills and is the more in more than and one the places or the role in the most ethically manners within the data governing and principles of such other practices the help in the creating other positive positions of for all the three parties and involve the individuals and the primarily in employers and the secondary employers and that tax the additionally services as the pandemic hits in the 2020 and many the gainfully employed and the professionals and lost their the job at every levels. The layoff were not restricted to the fresher and the middle management but the impacted and CXO level role too. Companies downscaled and there the working staff and even the rolled out pay cuts this were 60 to the 75% and this left many the highly skilled and experiences and the talented and professionals and with other migrate primarily and sources of the income and bill to the pay and that were the alienated and with their the original salaries. The only way to the bridge and the gap and the meet and there the expenses and where to take up other job, a second job ethically issues and that may the rises a person and may work and more than the one job in India and without the breaking the laws and however a person with the similar and set of the jobs and could give the rise to the concern and about other boy labels and of the confidently and because many the employers and include such the restrictions is there the employment agreement in addition to the prohibitions against holding down multiple jobs. Same person working for the Googles and Microsoft and risk of the sharing treat secret. Moonlight could and be the considered cheatings if and the enjoy employees and contact call for the non the complaint and the singles in employment and which is the situations and with the majority of the conventions employment and contract. However, it is not cheating and if the employed and contract do not have a such other clause or the relaxations. Conclusion: no longer a stop and gave the measures and many the companies and the employees and have the embraced the benefits of the moonlighting and as long as it is done the ethically there must be the water and the tide and contract the hirings and which can alle- alleviated problems and related to the confidently and this can the lead and to judge economic for the organized sectors too. Human values lesson and from the lives and the teaching of the great leaders and reforms and the administration's role of the families and the society and educational institutions in the in calculating values. Question: what does the quotas means to you? And 150 word honesty is the first chapters in the book of the wisdom and Thomas the Jefferson's difficulties level moderate. by the question. The question is the part of the static syllabus of the general study paper 4. Structure of the answer. Introduction begin by the exploiting the liberals and the meanings of the quartus bodies. Write about the beings and honest and with oneself and the how it's the important in the developing characters and elaborated upon how beings the honest and the oneself result so many benefits for the individual moralities. Substantial and with example conclusions. Summarizing by the highlighting the importance of the honesty in the present day. Introduction. Honesty is the component of the moral characteristics that the cannot positives and the virtues attributed and the such as the integrity and trustfulness and the openness and the including clarities and the खड़ी हो जा conclude along and with the absent and to the of lying creating etc and wisdom is the qualities of the having experiences and because and knowledge of the good judgment and it is the capacities to understand the emptiness body. Honesty also the involvement being the reliability and the trustworthy and loyal fair. Acha. Loyal fair and the sign zero and while the wisdoms and is the ability and to both think and the act using the experience and skills. The judgment to be the wish and one must the intentionally and act and with the predences and the common sense and wisdom and has other connotations and of the judiciousness and views and the discipline wisdoms the discipline and to the size and knowledge and the experience to do and what is the required and begin with. Honesty being truth and to the oneself and is the key to the wisdom. One must first and be the trust and the honest with the oneself and one must be the principled and in the one and the dealing and with the others and as one can't be the wise and without also using the truthful and the horribles. Dishonesty is the sign must unto the deceptions and honesty is the foundations of the wisdoms and is other if other person is the provener and the dishonest
अब मजे आ गए तो यार अपन ठंडी
dishonest and how could you the leave and him or her even and if he or the she and has the managed and to become wise and even pupils and indulging and in the inconspicuous lies and without any the intents and to the decisions anyone and are the protide their lack of the wisdom and thus acts of the dishonesty and even if done and to the become and more the socially and the acceptances acceptables and without being rude or the offensives and put other blanket and over one the wisdom is the another eyes and wisdom breeds and trust only with the honesty and for the instance and for other civil servants and there cannot be other more and the immorals act and then जो पिला देगा
अच्छा लगा
wisdom, greed, and trust the only, and with the honesty, and for the instance, and for other civil servant, and there cannot be the more and the immoral act than being the dishonest, and being the dishonest can make the people and think that the persons holdings the public office and is not the trustworthy, and the as persons and are the cast over and his the character and as well as one's other public servant losses and trust of the public, and all is the lost, and his and her wisdoms and has no the meaning, and but beings the honest can assures the others and that the person and can be the trusted conclusion. Thus being honest and often the requirement courage and the sacrificing especially and when others try to the pursuits and to the justify dishonesty and behavior. When you are the honest and you build the strength of the characterize and that and will allow you to be of the great and services to the others, and yet as a person level and the honest person will be the blamed and bit of the mind and self respected, and thus the honesty is necessary for the both learning and teachings and the practices. Wisdom and what does the access what does this quote means to you, and 150 words, and each person is to be have and the equal rights to the most and the extensive basic liberty and the compatibles and with other similar liberty and for others John roles. Difficulty level moderate by the question is other part of the static syllabus of the general study paper 4, and the structure of the answer and introduction begin by the explainings and the literals and the meaning of the quarters and body. Write about the bhakti in the religion in the context of the liberal and progressive bhakti movement in India. Next, write about the hero worships politics. Mention the concluded of such the worships and sites examples across the world. Conclusion summarized by the highlighting the importance of the quarters in the present day. Introduction. John Rowe 1921 and 2002 was the contemporary philosophers and who studies the theories surrounding justice. He gave the theory of the justice as the fairness and giving other theological theory on justice. He was in the influences by the Immanuel Kant and who believe in the human dignities, and hence he gives on almost priorities to liberty body. From the very beginning, both men and the state have been making effort for the society of their the freedoms, and freedom is other very precious conditions without which neither the state nor the individuals can make any the programs and be the remembered very well who crucially and the absolutely monarchs and ignored and the claims of the liberty in Ireland, in England, in ancient and the medieval age, and today the liberty is the severely and the certain in the north nations, in the nations like the North Koreas and the Afghanistans, and with the Taliban's and take over the especially and for the women in Saudi Arabia, etc. When people feel that they can the freely and express their the frustrations and feel that they petitions the government regarding their the grievances, and they don't feel pushed and to make the matters into their the own hands instead of taking up arms and heading for the hills and waging guerrillas and war against the central government. Disaffected and peoples can take to the airways, they can take out the aids, and they can participate in the political discourse when government give other proper forums for the dissentings voice. The society as a the whole is more the stable because the pupils and the dissenting groups don't feel so the disaffected and marginalized or the supported that there's only the options in bringing about the change is through the violent and revolutions or regime changes brought about by the military means. Society that the focus on the individual's liberty and for the societies often the produce economically freedoms, and this leads to the better economically, and when there's are the more choices in other market, and there is other tendency for the lower prices at other higher qualities. level for the product and the services, and when individuals liberty against the government control, the monopolizations and standardizations and are the protected individuals and are the encourages and to experimented and other different product and services which can the benefit society as a whole. Since there are more choices available, the more choices pupils have, the better for the economic and by the protecting individuals business from the attributary and government action, the economics and benefits since her since there are more solutions and more the economically diversity. Conclusion: from increasing economically choices and which can the lift countries out of the poverty to increasing the opportunity for the cultural expressions and artistics and explain political liberty and lay the important seas and that the left society on many the levels. The biggest benefits of liberty, however, is the truly persons and with the right political cultures, economically and social frameworks and rooted in the liberty society can lay the groundwork for pupils truly exploring and pursuing the highest level of person spiritual and philosophical and transcended. And what does the quartos means to you? And 150 words in the ethics prudences is not enough and we need the virtues. Aristotle's difficulty level moderate. By the question is a part of the static syllabus of the general study for and structures of the answer begin by the exploring the liberty, the literal meaning of the quarts. Write about the difference between the prudence and virtual produced and the virtuals are to the concept and that are the closely related to the ethics and but they have the different meaning and implicated. Write about the needs and of being virtuous in the ethics and side measures the virtues and example to the substantial. Conclusion: summarizing by highlighting the importance of the quietos in the present day. Introduction: virtuous ethics is the both terms for the theories and there the emphasis the role of the character, and virtuous is more the philosophies and rather than the either's doing and one duty or actions and in the part in the orders and to bring about good conscience body. Most virtuous ethics theories and take their the inspirations and from the Aristotle, who declared that other virtuous person is someone who has the ideal characteristic thread and theirs three derived from the natural internals and action and tendencies and but need to be the nurtured, however, and once the established and they will the becomes and stable. And for example, other virtuous person is someone and who is kind the across many the situations over other time lifetimes because that and his are the characters and not because and she wants to the minima maximize and utility or gain the favor of simple and do her the duties. Unlike the deontological deontological and consequentialist theories and theory of the virtuous ethics and do not I am the primarily and to identified and universal principle that can be the applied in any the moral situations. If virtuous actor choose the virtuous actions and the knowingly and for it's the one's sake, it is not enough to act the kindly by the accident and unlike unthinkingly or the because the everyone else is doing so, and so you must act kindly because you recognize that this is right way to behave and not hers that the although habituases is a the tool for character development, and it is not the equivalent to the virtues required and the conscientious choice and the affirmatives. Virtues lies in other means and because the right response and to each the situation is either and to the much nor to the little. Virtues is the appropriated response to different the situation and different agents. The virtues are associated and with the feelings and for the example courage and is associated with fear. Modesty is associated with the feeling of shame and the friendliness and associated with the feelings about the social conduct. The virtues lies in other mean and because it is the involves and displaying the mean and amount of the emotions. And the bear mean stand for the appropriates. This does not imply and that the right amount is the modest amount, and sometimes quite other lot and means amount is and may be the appropriated amount of emotions to display, as are the case of the writing used indigenations. The means amount is neither and too much or the too the little, and is the sensitive and to the requirement of the person and the situations. Finally, virtues is the determined and by the rights, reason, and virtues required and the time, and the right desires and the right reasons and to act, and from the right reasons is to act viciously. On the other hand, the agent can try to act and from the right reasons and but the fail because he or she and has the wrongs decisions. The virtuous against the act affordability and the princess and the right reasons has the harmoniums and right decision desires and has and the inner state of the virtues, and then the flow smoothly and into the actions. The virtuous and against and can act as and the examples and of the virtues too. Other comes conclusion. It is important to the recognize and that and this is the perfectly factory and the amount of idea that are the developed in great idea in Aristotle, and they are the related to the briefly here as they have been central to the virtues ethics and claims to the put forward other unique and the variables accounts to the others nominative theories and modern virtues ethics, and have the developed and there the theories around other center role for the characters and virtues claims that this gives them a the unique understanding of morality. What does the quartos means? What does the quartos means to you? 151. It is wrong and the immorals to seek and aspects the consequences of one's act. And Mahatma Gandhi. Difficulties level. Why the question? The question is the part of the static syllabus of the general study 4 and structure of the answer introduction. Begin by explaining the literal meaning of the quartos. Right body. Write about the important talking responsibilities for one action and importance of being accountable. Accountabilities is crucial in person, professional and social contact. It is refers to the obligation of the individuals and organization and institution to take the responsibilities for their the actions, decisions and the outcome, and side examples to the substantials and conclusion. Summarizing by the highlighting the importance of the quartzo and in the present day and as used act is purely and from the self interested and help use the live the life of the integrity. Introduction. He that the Soviet voice does not reap and virtuous. The core of the Gandhian philosophy is that the only rights and means lead to the right and the destinations and the end and do not justifies and the means as the Machiavelli advocate. It is the simply means that the end do not the justifies and the means, and you second reap and what you show and the ultimately and the unethicals and act of the human and will comes to the hunts and them. The quiet means to say and that there will be the accountabilities and for the act and that we do body as adult and we must take and the responsibilities for what we the says and do not say and what we do and do not do, and it is for the each of us the choices and that we are the accountables when other person and tax it too be there the morals and the obligations to be the responsible for their the action. बिठाल दे. It is now as the accountabilities and the when other person is the accountable for his action and they the understand and that they are the actions. आजा 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 ले आजा 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 आओ आओ जो अच्छी तो चल रही हो जाने अच्छा बैठ तो वो अच्छो फिर देख 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 अपन अच्छी जगह है ला आजा हो गया लम्बे बार खत्म भूख लगा इसका पेट हो रहा हुआ है भूख लगी तुमको ब्लड 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 भूख लगी बम 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 तू इनकी घरी का रहता मोला दूध पिएगी मोला दूध पिएगी पिल्टूबा फिर बाकी पिटाई लगाएंगे क्या करेंगे चल पहले तो आगे रो रहा है अब कब घूमे रो रहा घूमे रो रही है घूमे रो रही है कौन है वो जो खुद है वो जो बोला कौन है वो जो मना कर रही है भीड़ लगते सामने को तो खा सकते कौन है आ रही मैं जल्दी आ रही लोग अरे तो दूध नहीं लाऊंगा करंट चली गई तो ऐसा करंट से लगता कहाँ गई भग गई का नेम 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 वो तो ये बॉक्स डब्बा के रही ले जे ऊपर रखी है ऊपर से रखी है वाला सलोनी का खाना कैसी गर्म हो जाएगी नहीं मत मत पीरा होगा तुम जैसे समय लेना पाओ हाँ मिल लगाओ मिल लगाओ जो हो आइए बेटा आपको कुछ करवाना है body as must as adult and we must the take and responsibilities क्या ढांकी as adults we must take the responsibility and for what we say and do not the say and what we do and the do not do and is for the each and of the thus the choice and that we are the accountables and when other person and take its to be there the morals and the obligations to be the responsible and for their the actions and it is now and the as the accountability and when other person is the accountable for his the actions and they the understand and that their the actions and as the is accountabilities and when other person is the accountable and for his the actions and they the understand and that their the actions have other direct effect on the greaters and their things and take it up when other person is the accountable and for his the action and they the understand and that their action have other different and the effect on the greaters and things and that it's the up and is other responsibility to see that the action and achieving the greaters good and they looks beyond the personals and the goals and theirs the intentions and are the clearers and for examples and works as the personals and responsibilities and they are the countables and for it underlying the work and will only lead to be the institutions and losing monies it is wrongs and the immorals and to seek and to the escapes and the consequences of one act and it is the good and for other persons who overeats and to have and the h and either past and it is bad and for him to the indulge and his the appetite and then the escapes and the consequences and by taking the tonics and all the other medicine It is steals and boards and for other person to the indulge in his the animals passes passage and the escape the consequences and of his the act, and nature is the relentless and will have full revenge and for the any such and the violations of her the laws and moral the result and can only be the produced and by the moral restaurant and all the other restaurant and defeat the very purposes for which they are content. Their extended conclusion, Gandhiji said that and if we the so the need of the babul and one cannot expect or the reap and rose the flowers and only right and means the lead to the right and destinations and the unethicals and means and bill lands and use in the bigger troubles and we will the ultimately suffer the consequences. What does the quatos means to you? 150 words. Knowing yourself is the knowing yourself is the beginning of all the wisdom and Aristotle difficulties level tough. By the question. The question is a part of the static syllabus of the GS paper for structures introduction begun by the exploring the letters meaning of the quatos and body right about beings and knowing the self-awareness and it is important in developing the character and elaborated upon how being the honest and with oneself and result and so many the benefits and for individual morality and substitute with example conclusion summarize by highlighting the importance of the honesty in the present day. Introduction. Introduction. Aristotle's and timeline and wisdom in the quarters and knowing yourself is the beginning of all. Introduction. Aristotle's and timeless and wisdom in the quartos and knowledging the yourself is the beginnings of all and wisdom the underscores the profounded and the significance of the self-awareness in the pursuit of a knowledge and of other person's growth and to me and this the quartos and serve as other reminders and that the understandings and once the thought emotions and the strength and the weaknesses is the fundamental step and towards the living is the meaningful and fulfilled life and body self the awareness and allow and our use to the recognize and our the basis motivations and values and helping us make the informed and the decisions and the navigated and life and the complex seed and it is the empower used to the embrace and our the strength and work on our the weakness and the cultivated and the empathy and for the other the by the recognizing our the shared human experience and without the self awareness and our the pursuit of the knowledge and wisdom and may be the hindered as we may and lack the clearly and needed to the learn and from the our experience and engages and with the health with the bird in other meaningful ways the quartos lights to the captures and the below significant essentially more देखत रही जा self reflections and the information decisions making knowing the oneself and implies other deep and the honest and the introspections and is the involved and understandings and yours the values and belief the strengthened and weakness desire and the motives and this the self reflections and the allow you to gain and the verified gain about and who you are and the what matters and to you and the informed decisions making and with the self awareness and you can make and the better decisions you are the more likely देख learning and growth and the self-awareness and the enables and you to the recognize and your areas for the important. It is the open and the do to the personal growth by the acknowledging in the yours weakness and the activities and workings to the developed and the refines your skill and the character empathy and the relationship understandings and your avance emotions and experience enhances your capabilities for the empathy and it is allowing you to the related to our others and or other deepers and levels fostering deeper levels and fosterings and healthier and relationships and better communication wisdom and the perspective as you the delayed as you the delve and into the self and discoveries and you gain other broader and perspectives and on life and you start to see the connectedness of yours the experience and with the world around and you this expanded and the world views and contributes and to the development of wisdoms conclusion in essence this quotes and underscores and that the wisdom and is not and just the about and the acquiring and knowledge it is about the understanding yourself in the context of that the knowledge and it is about the making decisions and that the align with your the true self fostering personal and growth and the nurturing relationships and alternately contributing the possibilities to the world and why the knowing and yourself and you in work on other journey and that lost the fundamentals and for other more pursuits and the enlightenment life. What does the quartz means to you and 150 words and education without the value and as useful as it is seems rather to make man the more and clears and devices and cs jewels difficulty level is by the question is a part of the static syllabus of the general study structure of the answer introductions begin by explaining and the literals and meaning of the quarters on body elaborated upon the quartz and the mentions the role of the value education in making other person ethical and mention the way in which education shaped and up the ethics and cite examples and to the subside and the next write about the counters and view that the educationals and can also be the devoted of the ethics and its the consequences and subsidized and with example conclusion summarizing by the highlighting the importance of the quarto in the present day education gives introduction education gives knowledge and the awareness knowledge gives us the skills and the makes us the use the prepare and for our education gives us knowledge and awareness and knowledge gives and us the skills and makes us the prepare and for our career livelihood education has the multiple roles to play and the education is the poetry and of the imbibing and the external progressives and the ideas through thought and belief into the our international thinkings and based the eventualities and get the reflected and in our the actions and rule of the educations and is the immense and towards other moral ethicals and just society and the knowledge and which are the supported to the guide student and to the success maybe the abuse and or events the misses and for the malicious act in orders to prevent and this other set of the values is the necessary to guide the use of thus the knowledge and values are principle principle or standard of behavior and it is the someone's and budget of what is the important in life and value are the essential in education to prevent the studies and from the developing into other manipulatives and individuals body In the Vedic period, in the ashrams, educations, the guru, teachers, and interested and his the sishyas and student to follow certain value and thought out the life. And in the modern education system and value the oriented education gets the priorities and overs the others. It helped to the developed and scientific tempers of mind and large the heart rateness. Cooperative tolerance and respect for the cultures of others, the group, etc. Value education can take places at homes as well as in the schools and college and universities and jail and the voluntaries youth organizations. The Ministry of the Human Resources Development. The Ministry of the Human Resources Development has taken an strong step to the introduce and value among the school and the teachers and training the centers. Value based the education and has now been and made and the integrals and part of the new education and policy 2020. The five universal value. The five universals value and especially and the mentioned in the NAP 2020 and are the truth and peace and non-violence and love, the writing used and conduct. The value-based education is the only means and which can the give the youth, the young generation, the right directions in the modern times, and pupils are the extremely and focus in the pursuits of their the avan the success and self the interested and with the killer's instinct, and they need the success at any the cost in this the process, and they don't the remain and human and becomes and robots. Their activities and becomes the hard less and the virtue values freeze. Success may comes to us the but and aid the and we are not having. We are not having a sense or feelings of fulfillment. It has happened and due to the lack of the values, Swami Vivekanand and the pin. कहाँ जा रहा? हाँ लेटरिन का